about a year ago, we did the cover of Dragon Age Inquisition, and you let me come with you, which I think you ended up regretting in the end because
you did have a lot of questions about Varric and romance options. I remember that very clearly.
Now you going back, you got to visit Bioware Edmonton, so finally stepping in and getting to play. Can you kind of just take us through what you experienced, which by the way, I'm super jealous about, and I'm mad that you got to go, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we got to spend a few hours actually hands-on time jumping through some different areas. Some we've seen already, but we actually got to play them, like the Hinterlands area from E3. We got to see the fallow mire area that they were showing off at Gamescom. It's really fun to sort of have been there, to hear them talk about the potential of the game, right? To hear them talk about the things they want to do with the game. And then after finally getting some extended hands-on time with it, seeing the proof of those concepts, seeing the execution and seeing how it works. Like, you know, they can say, oh, well, we want this to be sort of a midpoint between Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2 in terms of combat. Part of me is like, well, of course you want to say that because like combat in Origins was generally better received than combat in 2. But now actually like getting a chance to play it, you see that they have found a good way to walk that line between the more action-oriented combat and the more sort of tactical, I don't want to say totally pause and play, because it's not like Origins where you would just like set up your moves and then hit spacebar.
That's what I was curious about, because I know at E3 they were talking about it and they showed it off a little bit, but I wasn't sure to the extent of how much you could put into action ahead of time and if it was going to be more like Origins or not. So.
Yeah, it's a cool system the way they have it set up, because basically you're just doing your normal like third-person action kind of fighting, and if you want to, you hit the select button and it sort of pulls out to that tactical map. So the action pauses, and that lets you sort of go from like character to character and go through their abilities and issue a command that you want them to do. And you can pull the camera out, and then you kind of have two options, and this is cool. You can hit select again to just like exit the mode and let those commands execute. And then it just, if you do that, then it just sort of goes back to your regular like action-based combat. Or while you're in that tactical mode, if you like pull the trigger, it's sort of like a fast forward, not fast forward, but just like a move forward command in time. So it's like you can micromanage kind of as much as you want to and sort of inch forward move by move like that if you want. Or what I found myself doing the most when I was playing was like generally using the action-based combat, jumping into the tactical stuff when I had a little more, you know, a little more of a complicated strategy or something. Or when things were getting really hairy and I was like, okay, hold on, pause, you drink a potion, you drink a potion, you drink a potion. Okay, let's get back to it.
And I assume while you're in battle, there's going to be some party banter going on?
Yeah,
or as you walk through, did you experience any of that? I know you said very light on story, I'm sure, because they don't want to spoil anything right now. But.
Yeah, well, and the game is a few months from release at this point. I don't want to spoil any like character moments for you or anyone who's watching either. But suffice to say, like, yeah, there's the characters that you think would have like an interesting dynamic when you're walking around. Like, I can for sure talk about like Cassandra and Varric, who had some interactions in Dragon Age 2. Like, they are both followers in this game, so you can bring them along, and they have a history that you.
We always bring Varric along. What are you talking about?
But like. They actually have a history that you as a player are even more clued in on than the Inquisitor is, you know, because you were there for the last game. So there are just some cool exchanges and stuff like that. I think people are going to be satisfied with the characters that they're familiar with, and you know, I didn't get to see a whole lot of fleshing out of the new characters yet, but again.
Yeah, they've really kept the new characters under wraps pretty well, because I feel like they did little profiles, but I don't have any idea if I'm going to like these characters or not yet.
Understandably, I think BioWare is keeping those sort of, those big character moments and the things that really define them a little more under wraps, so I'm happy for that.
I think everybody will be mad if I do not ask you about the environment and how big everything felt. Like, were you just going in a straight line? Were they explorable?
The shortest way I can describe my experience with all of these different areas is that, like, I played for several hours and feel like I barely even scratched the surface of these places, you know, like, because each place you go, there are all of these like sort of layered systems that you can dive into. So if you want to, you can run around and gather crafting materials, and there are rifts in the Fade that you can close down, and camps to establish, and all of these things you can do. But like, it's not just doing it for the sake of it. Most of these activities that you do result in some sort of gain for you, whether that's like influence for your Inquisition, power for the Inquisition, and power is basically like a currency that you spend to unlock like more things to do. Okay. And influence is basically like your Inquisition's like experience level.
Did you try to take on a dragon?
I did not. I did not. I did see one being fought.
They look fierce. I don't know if I'm going to be able to take down these dragons until I really build my characters.
The one that I saw, that dragon's health was
right?
not going anywhere. Yeah, and well, and plus they have the mobility.
I know when I was watching the E3 demo, like we damaged it about halfway, and the dragon just like flew away.
Yeah, and then
like,
it can just
like
book
all
it.
that work, and
So.
he just went.
But to get back on the environment point thing, just to clarify, so there's no like confusion about it. Like, I didn't see any of the repeated caves of Dragon Age 2 or anything like that. I mean, like, the team at Bioware seems to be very conscious of what people didn't like about the environmental setup in Dragon Age 2, and for Inquisition have just made like these large zones that you can go in to explore. It does remind me a lot more like. Think of it like Dragon Age Origins in the sense that these zones are discrete, but when you get into them, they're way bigger than anything you saw in Origins. I mean, like, it feels like an open world once you're in the zone. It just feels like there's a lot to do. You know, it's the kind of thing where I think of this game coming out in November, and I'm like, I am going to be playing this all the way through the holidays. It feels to me like there's going to be enough content there for it, but.
Obviously, you know, you stepped into the role of the Inquisitor, and you got to actually have some time with the war table.
Yeah, so the way the war table works is that there are different sorts of activities that you can do on it. Sometimes you're going to want to like spend some of your power to unlock like those main story areas. You can also unlock optional areas. But there's stuff to do there. And like I was saying, there are all those
crafting materials, probably.
Yeah, crafting materials. Like there is a story quest once you get there. It's not like it's just some random area that you wander around. It's just not a place that you have to go. And then there are also sort of smaller operations on the map. If you've played the Assassin's Creed games, the way that you sort of like send those assassins out on like real-time missions, this is very similar to that. Let's see, one example they gave is like, let's say that there's a dispute over like who's going to sit on the throne in a certain area. You may not, as the Inquisitor, like march down there and swing your sword and tell people what's happening, but you can send your agents to be like, all right, well, there are these candidates who can possibly be sitting on the throne there. What if we eliminated a few of them to make it more likely that the one we want is going to be there? And that may not be just a single operation. That may be a string of operations in which you sort of play kingmaker and determine and like try and bend it to the Inquisition's advantage to try and get someone on the throne who supports you. You know, and that stuff isn't done via like involved gameplay. You get that backstory by reading about it, but it's still a sort of thread that conveys a sense of like the influence of the Inquisition, which I think is cool also.
Yeah, it's really cool.
The war table itself is located in the Inquisition base called Skyhold. So this is basically a castle that serves as a place that you can like customize, and you know, it's where all your forces gather and things like that. The team wants it to feel like a place that, like, it's not just a place that's defensive. It's not just a place that you're building up so people don't attack you. They want it to feel like this base of operations, this like war camp that you are sort of projecting your power from. So you get a sense of you sort of customizing this base and making it feel like not just a seat of power for the Inquisition, but like a place where you're in charge of it. This is another cool thing about Skyhold is your advisors, your party members all sort of find their own little corners of the fortress and kind of make them their own, which I just thought, you know, like I think is an interesting way to get that sense back that you can just like Dragon Age Origins had in the camp, to get that sense back that you can just go and talk to a character and say like, hey, how's it going? Which I felt like was missing a little bit in 2.
Well, the game sounds great so far. I am super excited come November when I can finally play it. I know we had that unfortunate delay, but it's only a month, so...
Well, and ultimately, if it results in a better game,
we're fine with that.
Then it's hard to complain.
And I have a feeling, like you said, we're playing this for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
Good.
Bring it.
Bring it.
Bring it.